From unknown parts of metropolitan New York City, this is a
Hello, yes, good evening, everybody in Hip and the Lip Nation. Again, good evening or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you may be listening. Yes, it is a very exciting time for everybody, but I do have some very bad news. I just wanted to break this news right now. Some pretty bad news on this. Actually, first night of Passover, so happy Passover to all of our Jewish listeners. Yes. I think the miracle that we're all hoping for would be the Islanders make the postseason, but none of that. So no Passover miracle for the Islanders. But the bad news is my fantasy baseball team, has dropped 20 points in a day. So I just wanted to get that out there. Bad news. I know you're all very upset over that. I apologize for starting on such a dour note. But it is true. My team did drop 20 points on the heels of a phenomenal Tyler Glasnow, Brandon Finnegan showdown in Pittsburgh. So
W-Gas. Nobody cares about your fantasy baseball team, Lip. That's our shoot-off. Nobody cares about Hockey Boomer. Nobody cares about your fantasy baseball team except for you. Yes, we are Hip and the Lip, a sports podcast. We have plenty to get to tonight. Sergio. Oh!
Hey!
Oh, yes, the first week of baseball is in the books. We're going to overreact to many things, including Gary Sanchez. Oops, Gary Sanchez not playing. Oops.
Season's over.
Michael Pineda stinks and then is great. And what's going to be next? That's more stinking. We'll talk about some about that. Something we neglected to discuss in the last episode or two, in fact, is a New York Jets quarterback. Whoopsie! Nobody cares, apparently. And yes, of course, the Islanders season is in the books for the 2016-2017 regular season. And no postseason. And I'm sure the Lip will have many words to break down his feelings of the organization and team at the standpoint. Oh, we can't wait. I'm sure everybody's just dying to find out what it's going to be. Oh, Garth, you got to go. Oh, yeah, Garth. All right. Yeah, well, that's it. Your thread's done already.
Am I that predictable? Am I that transparent?
Well, we'll see if you have anything more unique to add than that. So, yes, and look, the Lip will give a nice detailed breakdown of the preview of the other New York hockey, which we don't give
we've neglected
enough respect to on the
Raggies,
show. Okay,
Rangers.
We don't get airtime to on the show. Well, I'm demanding a change of tune in that regard. Well, because they're actually have more hockey games to play. It's starting on Wednesday night. The Rangers travel to Montreal for a best-of-7 in the opening round of the NHL playoffs. I don't know what they call the opening round in the NHL playoffs.
Just the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're not the
okay,
NHL
there's no
playoffs.
separate round
They're
names.
The Stanley Cup playoffs. Oh, yes, get it right.
Okay.
To talk about
marketing
indeed. At its finest. Well done, NHL. Stanley Cup playoffs, yes.
Yes, and of course, I have to get in the plug-in to rate us on iTunes. Yes, rate us on iTunes.
And Stitcher and the Twitters and the Facebooks, the whole thing.
I mean, the Lip has his random tweets on at Hip and the Lip, and you could choose to chuckle at it or dismiss it or completely disregard it.
Or all the above.
So,
and then dismiss.
Yes. So, look, the Masters, a tradition unlike any other, concluded yesterday evening with Sergio Garcia finally, it kind of feels like that with him, finally capturing his first major title. This guy broke into the scene when he was 19 years old. He first appeared in the Masters in 1999. So, and he was a very energetic, polarizing player at a young age, and he definitely got accumulated a following, and people were behind him. And I guess over time it kind of dwindled because eventually you can root for the same guy so many times and see it fail. Kind of the part definition of insanity there. So finally, he was in it early, and is Sergio going to go through his typical song and dance of get off to a hot start and then fizzle out? But no, he actually blew his chance to seal it on 18 with, what was it, a 6-footer that wasn't even close, that he could have just sealed the deal. But instead, he has to go to the playoff with Justin Rose. And I'm just thinking to myself, walk to the clubhouse and do whatever crap formalities they have to do after their fourth round concludes. What do they have to sign? A scorecard, I guess, acknowledging.
Yes, of course. It's very important that they do that. Yes. We cannot go again.
So there's, I think, 2 cameramen that are following each golfer to the clubhouse. Like, you have to get every single pace that the guy takes, so you could watch like the beads of sweat fall off their bodies as they get, prepare themselves. And Sergio, what is he thinking right now? He missed that putt. This could all be over already. But Sergio, we have to follow every step. Oh yeah, okay, now he's coming out of the clubhouse. Oh yes, now he's getting into the golf cart. Oh yeah, but his golf cart can't start until Justin Rose is in his golf cart. So the guy driving the golf cart with Sergio is waiting for the golf cart accompanying for Justin Rose. And yes, of course, they then speed off to the 11th hole, and Justin Rose had that horrible drive, and you kind of saw it coming. Yes, and Sergio finally drains the putt. He could have two-putted and still won.
So now the whole process in between the 18th hole and then the playoff, you're saying that it was so suspenseful that you were just on the edge of your seat, that they ratcheted up the drama, and you're just sitting there. Oh my God, I can feel the tension. I can just slice it with a knife right now. Oh my God!
Yes, and Jim Nantz, speaking as excited as this, just talking about the tradition, unlike any other. Here goes Sergio. Okay, he's walking off the 18th green. Oh, look at that approach to the golf cart. I think he's a little anxious because he missed that putt on 18. Oh. Yeah, okay. He went in the cart a little more quickly than I've observed him go in the cart. What do you think there, Vern? Was David Faraday calling any of the commentary? I don't know. So yeah, no, so and then so then he hits the 2-putter, and so then a few minutes later, I guess they're showing all the different angles of the replay of his reaction when he sunk that putt to win it on the first playoff hole, and then he has a fiance who was there, because I think they hugged each other right after. I didn't realize what was going on, if he was married or whatever. But I subsequently learned that it was his fiance. But then they showed the shot, show him, and then you could see his fiance, where she's standing, also, watching him. And there's a so there's that camera angle, but within that camera angle, you could see another cameraman who's literally about 3 feet, say his face, like right in her face on the side, to capture her reaction from a 3-foot point blank range. And then she goes on to
your left, just kind of there you go, perfect money shot. There we go.
Goes on to her knees when he sinks it, and you see the cameraman quickly go right, jolt the camera down, so he's right in her face when she's down. Then she pops back up, and the camera pops. I'm like, this is just so ridiculous.
Damn, what have I told you? Your face still, damn it.
And then so they have the crying and whatever, and the Justin Rose interview. Oh, that was a really exciting one. What'd you think about that bad drive on the playoff hole? You think you tried to hit a little bit straighter or something? Just whatever. And then they have this ceremony in the master's room, or whatever the heck they call it. I don't know what its name. It's just so weird. They have the
happens in the room, and then they take it outside for everybody, right? They got to have the.
But the thing in the room is so weird. It's like the 6 chairs that are at a 45-degree angle, but 3 of them are together on one side and 3 on the other. And Jim sits in one, and I guess the master's coordinator sits in one, and there's some other third guy that sits on that side, and then on the opposite side, I guess, is last year's winner with the green jacket, right? And then this year's winner, and then the amateur winner. And it's just, oh my God, I'm like, a tradition unlike any other. Okay.
So you're seeing that. So you're saying that this sport just appeals so much to Jim Everyman. Is that what you're saying? That every single Joe Schlub out there just watches this and is just overcome with all the emotions. Oh my God, I can't believe it! What's going on the green? And look at the ceremony and the tradition and just everything. Oh, I'm just so overcome with the emotion. Is that what you're saying? That appeals to that crowd, right?
I have no idea what the overarching message I'm trying to make here. I'm just kind of conveying my experience yesterday. I've watched some Masters that I thought were pretty dramatic and fun and intense.
Well,
I don't know why.
I mean, the Masters can be that, but yesterday I don't really think it was that because they pulled away from the field. Everybody else dropped off, and they all missed shots.
Yeah.
They all missed shots to get to the playoff.
Right.
It wasn't like this guy Rose sunk, and then back comes Garcia, and then back comes Rose. It was he missed, and then he missed, and then okay, we had a playoff, and then finally Garcia finally hits. I mean, I was just trying to convey the message that it's the most elitist event of the elite sport. So nothing just screams.
An observer that I was with, look,
elitism like the Masters. It's a great event.
And you know what? An observer watching the game with me pointed kind of just casually, without really even paying attention to what was going on, just how it was pretty much all white. I mean, everything is white. I mean, look, and that's just the reality of it. So I'm not trying to say anything more, anything deeper than that, other than that was just a completely basically disinterested observer that just happened to have to be next to me watching it as it was on.
Disinterested.
Okay, but look,
an observer be disinterested in the Masters, but it is pretty much a club for the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Everybody else, get out. Don't even look at us. Just get away. Don't even look. So it's a great event. It is, but yesterday it was not a dramatic finish. Whatever. But here's the question. So did you turn it on because you were so compelled to watch it? Did you just flip and like, oh yeah, it was on? Did you make it a point of watching it because you were excited for it?
I wanted to see the end. I knew Sergio was in it. I was kind of paying attention to baseball more throughout the day because nobody cares about my fantasy team. And and then it's like 5-6 o'clock rolled around. I kept checking the scores, but I didn't actually have it on. And then I saw it was close. So I'm like, all right, maybe I should watch the last few holes and see how it goes. So that was the approach there. Okay, good enough.
Well, the only reason, fine. We can move on. The only reason I was asking is because does golf need a Tiger Woods? I mean, that's still the thing. Everybody misses Tiger Woods, or at least I think there are people out there that miss Tiger Woods because he was such a
good luck finding anything remote. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Who is out there that could replace Tiger Woods as that guy? I don't think there's anybody. He set the bar
so high. He set the bar so high. Good luck. We'll probably never see anything like that again.
I mean, even putting aside his dominance, just that larger-in-life personality that made people gravitate. But
that was part of the. I mean, that was part of the dominance, though. So
it was all part of it. But I mean, Dustin Johnson, he was supposed to, Mr. Pauline Gretzky couldn't play #1 golfer in the world. And then Spieth, who had...
There's another letdown for the whole thing. Yep, indeed.
Yes, very much. All right, whatever. Anyway, so... All right, next.
Thank you for being prepared to move on. We're on a fast metronome.
That's right, the metronome. Yes. Keep it going, fast pace. All right.
Okay, so look, we're now into we have a full first week of baseball in the books. I always hear people like to, look, Reyes only has one hit through his first 5 games. He's toast. I mean, look, it's so easy to react to the first week because today when they told me about Reyes being 1 for whatever, I'm like, do you think he's 1 for 12 in week 22 of the regular season? That was my response to this guy. Like, no, obviously we don't look at a week's window of time that intensely, any other week of the year except for the first or the last, perhaps. That said, so look, I'm there really is nothing too crazy to dig into. Although, look, Bird is. But look, let's acknowledge, Bird is injured. I don't think it's anything serious, but he's kind of down. Gary Sanchez pulls his bicep, and he might be out for like a month. That kind of blows.
Yeah, that's what they said. They said about 4 weeks he'll be out. Sanchez he had a home run in Baltimore the other night, but hadn't done anything. Bird has not been the word. I mean, he's been out now a couple of days with an illness, but Bird has not been the word. They've gotten off the very slow starts. They got a fast start from Headley. Very nice. Pineda home opener today was dominant. We had talked about Pineda and how vital he was to this Yankee staff, and you figured Tanaka would be a constant. Although Tanaka now has 2 bad starts in a row, so. Not time to worry yet, but if he has a few more of these, then you can maybe go, what's going on here? But Pineda, his tale of 2 Pinedas, the bad Pineda first start, the dominant, great, phenomenal Pineda with the filthy slider and commanding his fastball and overpowering hitters today. So if you get,
you got to see that from Pineda for like. I need to see it from him for like 4 starts in a row before I believe it, because has he ever had 2 starts like that in a row in his career? I know he had a game 2 years ago with 14 strikeouts, but that was like, that was
an aberration.
That was his last start as good as this one. A game into the 7th, so it's tough to top that. But still, Michael Pineda, like if you watched him last year, you are not a believer yet. I don't care what he did. He could throw a perfect game today, and I would not.
And he was throwing 1 through 5 innings. He was throwing a perfect game.
Right. Well, I'm saying if he went the distance, I would still be saying what I'm saying now. You need if he has 3, not 2, 3 starts where he's actually located consistently, I'll start to believe that he's figured something out. But whatever. Look, the Mets, we joked 2 episodes ago before the season started that, the Matzes and the Gazelmans and Lugos, whatever, we'll see who's on the DL. And look, we already knew Matz is on the DL and Lugo's on the DL. Look, Harvey, though, he looks okay. He doesn't look great. He doesn't look terrible. He looks like he's trying to be more of a pitcher than a thrower based on what I saw. Look, it's only 1 start. I don't want to read too much into it. Maybe he doesn't have much of a choice because he can't throw 99 right now. But he actually was trying to mix and match, and while he may not be blowing people away, at least. So let's see if he can take a step back and be more of a pitcher than, his counterpart, Noah Syndergaard, who threw as many pitches at 98 miles an hour last night as the Phillies did all year last year, or something ridiculous.
What, Aaron Nola doesn't consistently throw 98? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Jared Eichhoff actually looked really good tonight, topping out at 90-91, really kept the Mets off balance, but an interesting game where, you know what, now the Mets and Phillies are going to be interesting games to watch, because I think there's going to be a brawl in a game this year.
Oh yes,
because
Ramos over the head, yes.
Yeah, I sense a lot of tension. So we'll see how that plays out.
That was Flores at bat, right?
Right? It was Asdrubal Cabrera, and the and the announcers were speculating that it was retaliation because Asdrubal Cabrera had a walk-off home run against that relief pitcher in September last year when the Mets were fighting for a playoff spot, and Cabrera had a distinctive bat flip. Kudos to the broadcast team to pulling that out within 2 minutes of when it happened, because when it first happened, they had no idea why he would have threw over Asdrubal Cabrera.
I just thought he lost the pitch. I just thought he got away from him. And I'm like, what is Cabrera doing? He got away from him. Well, what are you overreacting for? But if that's the case, all right. How about Keith Hernandez, though, tonight? And, we don't have to spend too much time on this game. But how about Keith Hernandez mentioning a bat flip and criticizing, I think it was Herrera, who flew out to left field, or right field, I'm sorry. And he was like, what do you do? You're bat flipping for a fly out to right field? What are you doing? But can you please then criticize Yoenis Cespedes for the same thing, not running out balls ever and doing the bat? I don't know if he does a bat flip, but he never runs out balls. How about you call him out too then? If you want to call out the opposing team, that's wonderful. Call out your own team also. Every now and again.
Call out Yoenis.
Yoenis. Say, Yoenis, what are you doing?
I don't mind calling out Yoenis, just for the sake of calling out Yoenis.
Who wouldn't? I agree. I think everybody should do it right now with us. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yoenis. All right.
Yoenis.
But you did say
Yoenis.
But you did say watch out for the Phillies, and the Phillies. I mean, look, it's early. Let's let the season let's get through a month. Let's get to Memorial Day, and then we'll take everybody's temperature and assess and kind of look and see where everybody is. But I love like you said, the overreactions are amazing. I love it. But I also love the Tim Tebow updates. Breaking news: Tim Tebow hits his second home run in Class A instructional label. I know. It can't resist. You can't resist, but bring it up.
I can resist. I don't care.
Breaking news, everybody! Breaking news.
We'll use that.
My God.
Look. As a transition to an actual Jet quarterback. Okay,
yeah, good segue there. Former Jet Tim Tebow.
Look, this is a mistake on my part again. I made this 2 apologies in 2 straight episodes. I don't need to apologize. It's our show. We do whatever the hell we want.
Right, you tell everybody.
But Josh McCown was signed by the Jets on March 20th. Like, how did I miss this? I don't know. Like, was it just not a big deal not made about it? Or was I just not paying attention around that time? But $6 million guaranteed with another $7 million of incentives. Look, he's turning 38 years old in July. So we're not here to get excited about Josh McCown. And he has, I don't know if he's ever played a full season.
I say we can get excited about Josh
season. But I think it pretty much closes the book on the Jets quarterback pursuits. I don't see they're not going to sign another veteran unless one falls in their lap for nothing. I don't, this is it. You're going to have this competition.
Are they going to draft a quarterback in the first round this year? That's the question. And
top priority. I think that's stupid.
Well, the only way that they can, and the draft, we'll get to as we get closer. It's still a few weeks away, and I know everybody has, NFL. Everybody always has NFL on their mind. But the only way that they should take a quarterback is if they absolutely think that this guy is it, that he is their future, that he is going to be the next great quarterback. If not, then just stay away. Pick the best player at number 6. Move on with your season. Have a bad season, and if you're that bad, where you're gonna get the number 1 overall pick next year, and Sam Darnold comes out, take him then or whatever. But you do not take a quarterback unless you are convinced that this guy is going to be a star. He is your future. He's going to be the next great quarterback. If not, if you're like, well, let's just take one for the sake of it, then that would be the stupidest thing that they can do. And then every Jet fan should just give their letter of resignation right now, at least for this regime that's in place. Anyway. Josh McCown, very exciting, everybody. Yes, you were so overcome with excitement, you couldn't get the words out. You couldn't even get it out because you were just so overcome with all this excitement.
That's the excuse I should use for not knowing.
The 2017.
I didn't actually know. Somebody told me on Saturday night, 2 days ago. Somebody told me, yeah, you guys are the quarter. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I looked it up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what did I miss? I can't. I'm like, what's going on? Okay, he's on the team. So be it. Whoops. All right. Yep. So look, I think it's fair to give hockey its due respect this episode. We have a team that's continuing on in New York. We have a team that got eliminated on Saturday officially. Had their playoff hopes dashed by Toronto. They could have still had a chance on Sunday if Toronto. Nevertheless, we'll get to that and kind of recap the Islanders season. But let's turn our attention.
The Devils. I thought you about the Devils. I thought you talked about the Devils. How they were.
Yes, of course. Yes.
The Islanders. That's right. I'm sorry.
The other New York. Yes, the other New York team.
The other New York
Devils.
Team,
yeah, the other New York team, the Devils.
Exactly. Or the Sabres. How about the other New York team, the Buffalo Sabres?
Yes.
But they were also eliminated a few weeks ago.
See, it would have been funnier if you mentioned them first, but not after the Devils.
Right. No, you're right.
Because then that would have been a fair, retort. Because I did say New York, so anyway. All right, you got it in. You got it.
All right. Next.
All right. So look,
yes.
The Rangers,
Ranger fans, yes,
they're here. They listen. Somehow they've managed to make it this far without us talking about the Rangers for more than 3 minutes on any episode to date. I don't think, unless it's a Ranger Islander preview or breakdown of the game.
Yeah.
Right. So look, now it's time to give the Rangers some attention here. Game 1 Wednesday night, 7:00 in Montreal.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you take it away. So give us your thought of the Rangers as they stand right now and how they potentially will match up against the Canadiens and your prediction on the outcome of the series.
All right. Well, I mean, if you have anything, please chime in. If there's something you want to add in there, please don't hold back. But I mean, the Rangers are. It's been a weird season for the Rangers, and when you look at this Ranger franchise, and you go back to the last lockout, and we don't have to do a whole historical breakdown here of the Rangers over the last 10 years. But it's funny, you look at them. I mean, they made the playoffs, I think, every year except for 1 year in that time. And that was a game against the Flyers that they lost in a shootout to miss the playoffs. Olli Jokinen, for Ranger fans, I remember Olli Jokinen. But the Rangers every year are in the playoffs. The Rangers every year are a team that you think can contend. They've made the finals. They made the conference finals multiple times, as recently as a couple of years ago. Last year, they just you knew the Rangers were not going to be contenders, that they were not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. They were absolutely just steamrolled by the Penguins last year. So what they do? They retool a little bit, and it was just a very bumpy and odd and uneven season for the Rangers. You look at the way they started; they were beating up teams in the beginning, scoring a zillion goals. They finished, I think, 4th in the league in goals per game. But then you look at the last month, the Rangers really haven't had a meaningful game now in at least a good 3 weeks. I mean, they basically have been entrenched in that first playoff spot, the first wild card position. Really for the last month, if not longer. I mean, could they have passed either Columbus or Pittsburgh? Yes, they could have ascended to one of those spots in the 2 or 3 spot in the division, but I think they were just content to remain in the 7th spot like the Islanders last year, so they can play the Atlantic Division winner. So that's what they get. They get the Montreal Canadiens. And this should be an interesting series. I think they're very evenly matched teams. I do. The Rangers have a very deep group of forwards. They have, I think it was 4 guys that scored 20 goals. They had 4 guys at over 50 points. Do they have a big time superstar scorer in there? Well, Rick Nash used to be that guy. Can he be that guy in the playoffs? He really hasn't been, at least with the Rangers. Well, his whole career. I think he had 4 playoff games with Columbus before he came to the Rangers. But with the Rangers, he has not been a prolific offensive producer. Do they need him to be that? I don't think so. I think if they get contributions from, if their forwards, contributes enough dispersed among, all 4 lines that they're going to roll, and they will roll 4 lines at least for most of the game if they decide to shorten the bench at the end of the game, whatever. But they don't need Rick Nash to be that guy. But you know what? He can be that guy because he is still that talented. He's supposedly healthy. You always worry about health with him. He's supposedly healthy. And if he is, he has the ability still to put a team on his back. The question is, will he? And do they need him to? Kreider, Stepan, Zuccarello, that's their proverbial first line. I don't know what they're going to do with the other. I'm not even going to venture to guess what they're going to do with the other units because I think you're going to see some guys jumbled in there, at least eventually, even if they start with some of this familiar line combinations to start. But Kreider, Stepan, Zuccarello, I would guess would be together. Kreider had a very good season, not a great season because he still has his spurts where he just disappears and you go, where's Kreider? But overall, he had a good season. He scored, I think, 28 goals or something like that, led the team. Zuccarello led the team in points, and Stepan went 3 years without scoring a goal, but eventually, kind of got back on track a little bit there. But Stepan is a good 2-way center, plays power play, penalty kill, all that. Corsi, the Rangers were not very good in Corsi. They were 25th in the league. So if you want to put any stock into the Corsis, well, they were 25th in the league. That's not very good. And they were 10th in power play, 19th in penalty kill. The Rangers, they have their power play can stagnate at times, but overall, it's been pretty consistent over the course of the season. Here are the X factors for the Rangers.
Corsi is 5. Corsi on.
Sorry.
Just to clarify, it's 5 on 5 shot attempts.
5 on 5. So excluding power play, special teams, 5 on 5 shot attempts towards the net. The percentage of shot attempts towards the other team's net, and the shot attempts towards your net. So the Rangers were 25th in that category this year, 5 on 5.
So if you take a slap shot and it's blocked in front of the goalie, that counts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or if it misses wide, it counts.
Right. Anything that goes towards the net. You have unblocked. You have the category that has unblocked.
What if you
shots.
try to shoot it and you break your stick and it kind of goes into no man's land?
I don't know if they would count that. I mean, basically, it's meant to, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. Exactly. Well, John Tavares actually was notorious for that, the breaking of the stick, although not as much this season. But we've talked about it. It's basically measures, quantifies possession. But I think we can maybe stop putting so much stock into Corsi just because I think it was 5 or something out of the top 10 teams in possession in Corsi that are not making the playoffs, and that includes the number 1 team in the Los Angeles Kings. I think they were number 1 Los Angeles. But so again, use that stat as you will, factor it in as you will, consider it as you will. But there you go. They were 25th in the league. X factors for this series, and I'm going to give you 2 guys that one guy you may expect, one guy you may not expect if you're a Ranger fan. The first guy, Brady Shea. This guy is a defenseman. He was a rookie defenseman this year. And if I'm talking to a Ranger fan, obviously you're saying, "Duh, I know." But Brady Shea had an amazing season, really a tremendous season for them. And Ryan McDonough is a constant. He is going to be playing 25 to 27 minutes a night, if not more. He plays in every single situation. You will see Ryan McDonough on the ice all the time if you're watching a Ranger playoff game, even any Ranger game, but especially a Ranger playoff game. Brady Shea really emerged as just as a guy that could really be tremendous defenseman in this league. He can skate. He can produce offensively, and he's actually been pretty good defensively. He's really progressed in that area, and I think he's a guy that honestly, that Alain Vigneault is going to put a lot of trust in, especially if the other guys are not getting the job done. They're older veterans. So watch for Brady Skjei. Watch his minutes potentially go up as the series goes along, and watch him be put out in every situation, kind of like McDonough. I'm not going to pair him with McDonough, at least. You probably won't see that at any point. Maybe he'll end of the game, mix and match. But watch for Brady Skjei, especially later on in the series, if the other guy's not getting the job done, and he could really be an X factor. Michael Grabner is the other guy I was going to say. And if you were thinking, wow, I can't believe you're bringing up him. Well, as a former Islander, I can attest that Michael Grabner, and I've said this, I think, before, he was the second best Islander forward when they played the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2013. Now you're saying, okay, that was a few years ago, so what? Well, in that series, he was such a force in that series. We know how fast he is. He's one of the best skating forwards in the league. And in that series, he was also as physically engaged as I have ever seen him. He was all over the ice. He gave the Penguins. Now, the Penguins were a slower team, but he gave them fits. He was physically engaged. He was getting it on the forecheck, hard on the forecheck. If he can, now he's not going to get as many minutes, at least. Well, you figure he'll probably get, he's a third line player. He'll figure he'll get around 15 minutes a night. But if he can, replicate what he did for the Islanders in that series, he is absolutely going to be an X factor. Penalty kill as well. Watch him on the penalty kill. He is one of the best at sniffing out the point-to-point pass. And if he can sniff out a pass that's kind of lazily made or just methodically made, and he can pick it off, he's gone. He's off to the races. And then, his breakaway percentage is not very good. He'll out of every 20 breakaways, he'll maybe score 1 goal. But if he, can get opportunities, maybe he'll capitalize on a couple if he gets lucky. And he can be somewhat of an X factor for the Rangers. And then, of course, Henrik Lundqvist, our old friend Henrik Lundqvist, the guy the Ranger fans love to criticize. He never gets it done in the playoffs. He's not a big game goalie, blah, 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 blah. Well, he had the worst statistical year of his career by 1.5 miles. He had a 2.74 goals against and a .91 save percentage. Those are bad stats for Henrik Lundqvist. He played 50-something games this year. He was hurt. It was just it was like a season where you say, is this the end? Is he really on the serious decline now? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think it was just one of those aberrational seasons where a guy just kind of never really gets into a groove, doesn't get into a rhythm, and goalies are very finicky players. We know that they don't get into a rhythm. They kind of lose their overall sense of focus at times. I'm not necessarily saying he lost his focus, but they're just very, very odd, finicky players, goaltenders. And Lundqvist, he just never got into a rhythm and had a terrible statistical season. Well, he's going to be starting game 1, and unless he just gets shelled a couple games in a row, there's no way that Antti Raanta is going to play, unless he gets hurt, of course, as well. But Antti Raanta is not going to be coming in on at least there's not going to be a short leash for Henrik Lundqvist. So if you're thinking, they're going to yank him.
Did Raanta come close to playing as well or as poorly as Lundqvist did this year?
No, Raanta did a really good job for the Rangers this year. Yeah, Raanta did.
But nevertheless, look, Lundqvist is the number 1 guy. Obviously, he's the face of the team. Yes. But he was outplayed by his backup.
And not enough to say you're going to looks bad. If Lundqvist gets shellacked a couple games in a row, there'll be a discussion. But I'm telling you, they're not going to have a quick hook for him. If he gives up a soft goal or 2 soft goals in the first 10 minutes, they're not going to yank him. He is their guy. He is their horse. He is the guy that they are expecting and counting on to take them as far as they can go. And if he's legitimately bad and he just looks like he's lost out there, then yeah, you'll see a change. Maybe they go back to him. Maybe they don't. But you're going to see him at the beginning, and he will have as long a leash as it really is any goalie for any team in the playoffs, I would say.
Is that what you would do if you were the coach?
I would. I still think that Henrik Lundqvist can play at an elite level, and we've seen him do it in the playoffs, contrary to this, kind of false narrative put forth by Ranger fans. And of course, I love, ribbing Ranger fans, especially when they don't appreciate something that they have. Something as great as Lundqvist has been, he's been one of the best goalies in the league now for over a decade. And yes, has he won a cup with the team? No. But they have gotten very far in the playoffs multiple years, and a lot of it is attributable to Henrik Lundqvist. They have never been the best team. I mean, you look at the teams in front of them, they've been good, but they've never been great teams, ever. And Henrik Lundqvist has been as big a reason why they have advanced as far as they have in recent years. And I still think he can play at a high level. Yep.
Now, how do they match up against the Canadiens?
Well, it's interesting because I've always looked at the Montreal Canadiens as a team that wins, at least post, the Hall of Famers of Maurice Richard and Guy Lafleur and Ken Dryden and those guys. After those guys, they bring in Patrick Roy. They win a couple cups with Patrick Roy. I've always looked at them as a team that won with smoke and mirrors. They're opportunistic. They're not going to dominate you physically because they're never the best team on the ice talent-wise, but they know how to capitalize on their opportunities. They're usually deadly on the power play, and they'll ice the puck a zillion times if it's beneficial to them, and they'll wait for their chance to strike. He runs with teams that you scratch your head and say, how did this team win? Whether it was the 93 team with Roy, or Jose Theodore backstopping them, or Jaro Halak, our friend Jaro Halak backstopping them to a conference final a couple of years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, or Carey Price, of course. And this year's team is a little bit different. They were not as lethal in the power play. They were 13th, and they only had 2 20-goal scorers, Max Pacioretty, who's a legitimate star in the league, and Paul Byron. Who the hell is Paul Byron? But they do have a very dangerous Russian by the name of Alex Radulov, who is another Russian enigma. That's the word I love that they always use for Russian players that don't produce to their talent level. Enigma. Well, he's another one of those guys because he had a okay year, but very talented and can be dangerous whenever he's on the ice. You have to account for him. But what I was going to say with this team is they have more physicality. They brought in the sandpaper guys, if you will, the term that you'll hear used for the guys that aren't going to produce anything offensively, but they can hit and jam and forecheck maybe and drop the gloves if need be. Guys like Dwight King and Steve Ott and Jordy Ben. And they are playing more of a Boston Bruin type of game. Why? Well, because they hired the Boston Bruin coach only a month and a half ago, whenever it was, when they
fired their coach.
Yep.
We talked about this on a previous show, and
we did.
It's so bizarre to me that this happens with some regularity in the NHL. That teams that are bound for the playoffs just fire their head coaches and move on and scrap up somebody else off the off the shelf.
A guy that was fired like 5 days before or whatever it was, and Claude Julien, who was fired by the Bruins.
So bizarre.
This really was. And I'm not a fan of Michel Therrien. I don't think he's a really good head coach at all. And I was actually surprised that he kept his job after last year when they completely fell apart. But that was definitely surprised by this. But Claude Julien has him playing a Boston Bruins style game because they brought in a couple of guys that fit that profile. The heavy physical game, get in on the forecheck, not necessarily look to transition as much or look to create things off the rush or with speed or be opportunistic and wait for the right time to try and strike and try and score, try and create an offensive opportunity. And that's what this team always was to me. But now they play a little bit different style. And I think the Rangers that could actually benefit from that because the Rangers, when they're at their best, they're playing fast because they have guys that can skate. They have guys that can get up and down the ice. Now, they don't really have defensemen. I think we've mentioned this before. They don't really have defensemen that can transition a puck as well as some other teams. This is where Brady Shea comes in, and this is why he's so vital to any success the Rangers are going to have in the playoffs, especially in this series. So, the Habs are not a very deep team, and they're going to be. I think their depth is going to be tested. Alexei Emelin may not play at least in the early part of this series, so their defensive depth is going to be tested. Shea Weber, the guy is still a rock. He's like McDonough. He's going to play a zillion minutes. He's going to play in every situation. He has a 180-mile-an-hour slap shot that he can still rock it. But he was exposed last year for Nashville, so just keep that in mind. It was towards it was the conference finals. I think they got to last year, and he was exposed a little bit, Shea Weber. So, just kind of watch that as the series progresses. See if the Rangers maybe are kind of turning him into a pylon a little bit with their speed, if they can get speed through the neutral zone and generate speed into the Montreal zone. So, but still, he's still a tremendous player, Shea Weber, and honestly, they're pretty evenly matched. And I think that this is absolutely going to be. I haven't mentioned. Sorry, Carey Price, of course, as well. I think the Rangers might need Chris Kreider to run Carey Price if they have a chance to win, which happened a couple of years ago, of course, when the Rangers beat the Canadiens to get to the Cup Finals. But Carey Price, another tremendous year, 2.2 goals against, .923 save percentage. And honestly, I think the series goes at least 6. Can I really? You know what? I can't take. And I don't like the Canadians. I'm not a Canadian fan. I don't root for them. I can't pick the Rangers though. How can I? I mean, how can an Islander fan and a former Islander podcast, still partly Islander podcast host? How can I, in my right mind, be completely objective? And I tried to be that. I tried to be that as much as I could throughout this whole.
You have been for about 7 minutes. So
all right. So how about Canadians in 7? There you go. We'll get an exciting 7-game series.
Just a quick question that the naive hockey fan of me is not afraid to ask. Where does the term Habs come from?
Les habitants, a French term. So the habitants, whatever that translates to.
Is that what they call themselves? Like we say Americans?
Self-appointed,
is that how you say Canadians in French, basically?
The whole Quebec thing, independence for Quebec. Viva for the critic fans out there. Viva Jay Sherman. Viva Quebec. I think that's where it originates from. I don't think I ever
remember, when I was younger watching the Patrick Waugh days, I don't remember that term being used in the team.
Yeah, no, it's been around. I mean, maybe it's not as prevalent. It wasn't as prevalent back then, but yeah. Les habitants.
There you go. So you can, if you want to be a cool, hockey fan, you know what you're talking about. I mean, the regular watchers know this is obvious, but if you're trying to break in and sound cool, you just say Habs. You just don't say Canadians.
One other thing I want to throw in there too. Watch out for this also. This you'll enjoy. For everybody out there, and you too, Mr. Hip. So the Canadian fans, and this is something I picked up on a long time ago, and they've done it consistently ever since. So when you see a Canadian player get knocked down, you're going to hear a cheer go up in the air, and you'll probably be thinking, why the hell are they cheering for? Their own player got knocked down. What are they cheering for? But you'll immediately, what they're looking for, what they think is going to happen is they think there's going to be a penalty called and that they're going to get a power play. So that's why they're so excited. Yay, we're going to get a power play. But then if they don't see the referee's arm go up in the air, you then immediately hear boo, boo. So you first hear yay and then boo. So be on the lookout for that if you're watching whenever a Canadian player gets knocked down. And I promise you'll enjoy it. You'll crack a smile and you go, oh yeah, they are doing that. Look at that. And they
just a lot more pronounced for the Habs fans than any other team's fans for some unexplained reason.
Yeah, so this is very much their exclusive purview. Canadians fans doing this exact this type of thing. So, but you'll definitely crack a smile if you notice it. So be on the lookout. All right.
So look, the series kicks off Wednesday night, 7:00 in Montreal. So we'll see how it unfolds, and we'll have some analysis on next week's show as we'll be a few games into the season at that point.
Yes, all right.
So we can't call it a night without season on the New York Islanders. So they were officially eliminated on Saturday with the Toronto Maple Leafs winning.
Yep.
And look, they gave us a glimmer of hope towards the end. They went on a nice run towards the end. It was too little too late. As we talked countless times this year, they dug themselves too deep of a hole. Yes, they were in the 8th spot for like a couple days, and then they just, because they were on such a good surge after they fired Jack. They had a great surge. Then they had a little bit of a lull for about 4 or 5 games, and they just couldn't recover from that. And you couldn't really expect them to maintain that level of play that they had from the moment that Jack was gone. I mean, it just was not – they almost pulled it off, which actually would have been a pretty remarkable feat considering where they stood when Jack was fired. That being said, but that doesn't absolve the crappy play that they had before that point. And so that has to a strong memory of this season and an overall take on it when you think about where the team now stands and what are they going to do in an effort to take it to the next level next year. Are there going to be some major personnel changes ice as we started. Oh, Snow's got to go. Oh, this is finally going to be the time. The new owners are going to make a big splash here. Something off the ice. Look, Capuano's gone. We talked about that. And Doug Weight, you'd have to think, is going to stay on as the head coach, considering the way they turned it around.
Depends who's the well, I mean, if Snow's the GM, then I guess expect.
Right. So with that said, okay, give us your high-level Islanders breakdown. Maybe I said it in like 3 words at the beginning of the show, but I'll let you use a few more words than that and say, all right, bye, Islanders. All right, next year. All right, bye.
Yeah, well, it's just a very disappointing feeling right now if you're an Islander fan, considering where we were at this time last year. We're all excited. We're gearing up for we're gearing up for the Florida Panthers, and we have the skinny on, and we do the breakdown and the whole thing. And then, of course, they win the double overtime goal, and we're all looking forward to this year after they lose to Tampa. At least we were optimistic that maybe they make a few moves to improve the team and they can progress and maybe advance, to the next round, make the playoffs again, and maybe advance another round if they were good enough. And of course, none of that happened. And really, I mean, what did we say? What did I say coming into the season after the terrible offseason? And the terrible offseason was very pronounced as soon as it ended. I said right away, this was a bad offseason. Bringing in Andrew Ladd and Jason Chimera to replace Oposo and Franz Nielsen, you just knew that the team was just going to take a step back, and they did. I mean, I thought they'd be a fringe playoff team. That's what I predicted. I think I said that they would make the playoffs, but they would barely sneak in, and that's really where they were. And I think most Islander fans, diehard Islander fans, pretty much expected where they would. They ended up exactly what where Islander fans could have predicted. And when you look at the way the season unfolded, and they were off to a miserable start. They were legitimately one of the worst teams in the league for the first 2 months of the year, really for the first 3 months of the year. And they didn't, like I said, they really didn't pick up their play until after Capuano was fired. And it's really a tale of 2 seasons, the pre and post Jack. But this season and where the team is right now is a complete indictment of the general manager. Now, I can get into, breaking down why the team missed the playoffs. The power play was awful. Ryan Pulock rotted in the minors as their power play just completely faltered throughout the year. Their possession stats stunk, if you want to, again, put any stock into that. John Tavares, and I made a note of this, had the worst shooting percentage of his career while having really good possession numbers. So, he only finished with 66 points, I think, 30-something goals, like 30, 31, whatever it was. I mean, he got injured, of course, at the end of the year, but whatever. And then, obviously, goaltending, which was their backbone last year. The goalies played great last year. This year, Greiss was completely run into the ground. And, of course, we know why. The Halak situation, the 3-goalie disaster, that mess that was created by Garth Snow at the beginning of the season, deciding to part ways with just the completely ill-conceived decision to part ways with P.A. Parento. And keeping the 3 goalies here, that situation was a mess. And Halak just finally said, "Hey, what's the deal here?" And of course, they got him banished. And then the free agents that they brought in, Andrew Ladd was abysmal. The first 32 games, he had 4 goals. He was abysmal early on. Yeah, he finished with 22 goals and had like 2 assists or 8 assists. For 30 points. Oh, hell of a season. And Jason Chimera, who was also off to a terrible start, finished with 19 goals. So they both finished up relatively well, but I mean, they really didn't have that much of a significant impact on this team. And then the regression of other players, guys like Ryan Strome, who was again terrible before the firing of Jack Capuano, played a little bit better under Doug Weight, but let's not kid ourselves. He was not like an offensive dynamo after they got rid of Capuano. And Ryan Strome, does he have a place on this team in the future? Honestly, I don't know. And then Brock Nelson, who I think just got the 20 goals, I guess finished with exactly 20. We learned that he basically can do one thing, which is wrist shot or wrist the puck, which he is one of the best at. His wrist shot is great, but everything else stinks. I mean, he's big, but he pickles his body. He doesn't play up to his size. His defensive game is not developed at all. He turns the puck over like he has a hot potato on his stick. And there is no way that both of those guys can be back next year. Nelson and Strome, maybe one, but you have to then pick one. And honestly, I don't even know who I would suggest. Maybe the guy that makes most sense under the cap. I'm not going to get into that right now. Cap situation, all that. We'll get into that as we move to the off season. Right now, It's really just the stench of the general manager. And that's what it's all about for me. And this is all about Garth Snow. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to yell and scream. It is alarming that he's still a GM of the team, and now the season's a couple days old, a couple days over. So I am a little alarmed that he's still here. But here's what I'm going to say, and I won't yell and scream yet. I'm going to question legitimately if the owners really what their plan is. What is the end game right now with these owners? Now, you have to factor in just how ridiculous it is that we have to talk about the arena situation. And I'm sure the owners, when they bought the team, they thought that there was stability with the team finally. They have a building, they have a long lease, it's a beautiful state-of-the-art building, it's all wonderful at the Barclays Center, right? Well, they quickly learn that that is not the case, and who the hell knows if they're going to be there in a couple of years. So now they have to deal with that situation. So my guess is that the owners right now are saying, you know what? The hell with the on-ice product, whatever. We're not going to draw, even if we feel the contending team, we don't know if we're going to draw people here anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the hell with the on-ice situation. We're just going to keep everything status quo. And this is what I fear. This is my fear. And I don't know this. I'm just speculating. But they're going to say, let's keep everything status quo. Let's maintain the continuity. We like Garth. He sweet-talked us. He showed us his PowerPoint presentation about why none of this is his fault. We were sold. Charles Wang loves him, so let's just keep him. Because we want to focus on the arena situation. I'm sorry, John and Scott. That is a piss-poor excuse to keep things the way they are. And here's my advice to you. Here's my advice to you right now. If you are that concerned and that consumed with the arena situation and getting all that figured out, what you have to do is you need to, and we've heard rumors about this, all year, we talked about team president. They're conducting a search. They're talking to everybody, including Sparky the Dragon, and from this guy to this guy, all the way through the mascot. Well, you've had now a year where you've been majority owners. You've been within the team's ownership now for a couple of years. We have to evaluate everything as garbage. That's nonsense. Nobody buys that for a second. The evaluation time is done, and you now need to hire a team president and basically anoint whoever it is, and it has to be a guy that needs to be respected within NHL circles and has connections within NHL circles. Maybe a guy like Brian Burke. I know Islander fans will cringe when they hear that name, but that would be a type of guy that you want to bring in. Bring in that team president and basically tell him you're going to be the conduit between the front office and me. I don't want to be involved in all the day-to-day stuff. I have to deal with the arena situation. Handle everything. You have carte blanche, full autonomy to make whatever decision that you feel is necessary for this team with the front office, scouting, GM, pick everybody. Let me know what you're doing so I can sign off on it and I can write the checks. Other than that, I don't care. You handle everything. So if you need to hire a Brendan Shanahan type, what Toronto did, or John McDonough in Chicago, go out and do it. There is no excuse. There is nothing that you can say with a straight face that would actually fool Islander fans into believing that Garth Snow is legitimately the right guy for the job going forward. And putting aside everything in his tenure of 11 years here, and we're going on a decade now of a rebuild, a 10-year rebuild. It doesn't take 10 years to rebuild a team. And Garth Snow fed us this load of crap right from the beginning. Oh, have patience, Islander fans. We don't want to be a mediocre team forever. We don't want to bring in guys like Mike Comrie and Bill Guerin and just wallow in mediocrity. We want to build a contender. Well, hey, guess what, Garth? It's 10 years later, and that's exactly what your team is doing. You're wallowing away in mediocrity. And there is absolutely nothing that you can say to any diehard Islander fan right now that would actually make them believe that Garth Snow is legitimately the right guy for the job. And if you believe that he is still the right guy for this job, you really do need your head examined. And we can legitimately question if you know what you're doing or if you just lied through your teeth to us, just like the last owner. It's time to expunge the remnants.
At this point, they probably realize he's not the right person. It's just a matter of what do they do? What's their next move? That's
fine. And yes, and you're right. But if they really feel that they need to hire a team president that'll just oversee everything, then do it. You don't have to do that. You can bring in a GM on your own, find a guy, bring him in, and then you just have the chain of command, the hierarchy established, and that's what you need to have, because if you don't, you're going to have a mess like Charles Wang did with his little committee where he's the chairman and everybody reports to him, and you don't have a chain of command like you have to have in any sports franchise. I mean, here's the question I'm going to ask, especially in light of Passover. What did Charles Wong put in Garth Snow's contract that have made Ledecky and Malkin terrified to fire him? I mean, did he like put it in there in the light of Passover that the plagues of Egypt are going to be unleashed on Brooklyn if Garth gets fired? I mean, should we expect to find blood in our bitter hipster beers? Or even worse, the plague of baggy pants and button-down shirts to replace our the hipsters' cardigans and fedoras? I mean, what is it that you are so terrified to fire him? And you can't say that you think that he's done a good job because the body of work says otherwise.
Nobody's terrified. Is anybody going to be outraged if he is fired? I mean, nobody's going to be like, how are you thinking get rid of him? No, it's going to be, finally, geez, what took you so long? It's not even going to be a pat on the back. It's going to be like, you should have done this a long time ago, dumbasses.
Yeah.
So there's not even like a good PR that comes out of this either way.
No. There's nothing.
It's just like, finally, hello, wake up. You finally woke up. Jeez.
I mean, the man has a terrible track record. I mean, when you go back, to his drafting and the failed first-round picks from the Niederreiter disaster, the trading Niederreiter for Clutterbuck and Ryan Strome, who hasn't developed, and then Griffin Reinhardt, who was maybe the worst fourth overall pick of all time. Yeah, he turned into Matthew Barzal. Whoop-de-doo. Where's Matthew Barzal helping his team right now? He's in junior. So his free agency signings have been for the most part terrible. He has zero foresight. He does not know how to institute any kind of creativity into the job. He doesn't make a move unless he is absolutely sure he's going to come out on top. He is scared to take any kind of risk. Again, zero vision, zero foresight. He reacts to everything. He's playing a game of checkers. It's not checkers, it's chess. Remember Denzel Washington? And I always think of the quote, "This is chess and checkers." Well, it's the same thing. And Garth Snow has never learned on-the-job training when he was hired 11 years ago how to do the job properly. And what's the worst part is he has gotten so smug and arrogant. And then, of course, again, the situation with the goalie. The goalie situation was a capital offense. I mean, that's the Halak situation. I know I've said it. It's a capital offense. And any NHL team that would ever allow Garth Snow near an NHL front office ever again needs their heads examined. So that's all I'm going to say. That's
okay. Well, look, there'll be minimal, I suspect, unless barring some significant move, the Islanders will be discussed at a minimum over the next several weeks as we focus on NHL playoffs.
Yes, get excited for the expansion.
There'll be expansion draft. Oh yeah, I forgot. How dare I? There'll be there's plenty other look at. We got the Rangers to follow. We got NBA playoffs to whatever extent we care to even acknowledge that it's going to happen. Maybe some players will rest in the playoffs because they'll be up 3-0, so they'll sit out the 3-0 game and just to rest up so they can be more prepared as it gets deeper into the postseason. So we'll see how that unfolds.
Yeah, so we can all take a nap until the LeBron Jameses versus the Steph Currys in the finals again, I guess.
Now, how about Russell Westbrook, though? I mean, this is just remarkable that he set the record for most triple doubles in a season. It always seemed like that trivia question. That the average basketball fan knows. Who's the only player to ever average a triple double?
The Big O. Now it's not just him; he has some company. I mean, you give him credit too. I mean, that team really does not have much behind them. You can say, "Well, LeBron James is still the most valuable player," and you put him on any bad team to get them into a playoff team. Blah 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 blah. That's fine. And I'm not saying that LeBron is still not the best and the most valuable player in the league. He is, as much as I don't really like the guy. But Russell Westbrook, he has really put that team on his back. Like you just don't see this. It really was something truly remarkable. And if you had a chance to witness it, well, you saw something special and maybe something that'll never be done again. Because that was really just a remarkable achievement, what he did with that team, his own personal stat line. We'll see if they can win the playoffs. Maybe they play Houston in the first round. It looks like that'll be the most likely matchup. It could change, but right now it looks like that'll be the matchup, which, fitting considering it's Harden versus Westbrook. So we get to see those two star players go at it. So, but you're right. And we should bring that up. We should acknowledge it because it was really, truly remarkable. All right.
He didn't sit out games, did he?
And no, and he didn't sit out any games. He played every game. He gives his a full effort every game. He plays 40-plus minutes most games, games where they can play him a little bit less because they have a big lead or if they're getting blown out, fine. But he's out there every game. He gives a full effort. You never question his effort, his desire out there. He is really a tremendous player, and he should be lauded for it. LeBron be damned. Westbrook had a tremendous year, and you know what? Give him the MVP. Just give it to him.
All right.
Harden, you can make an argument for Harden because Harden was also phenomenal this year, and you can't understate his accomplishments either. With that Rocket team, kudos, though, to Russell Westbrook. All right. But let's be excited as well for the Connor McDavid's making the playoffs in the NHL. But do watch. NHL fans, Ranger, whoever's listening, watch that guy play. Watch the Shark Edmonton series, whatever channel it's on, the NBC family networks. The family of channels on NBC, CNBC, and MSNBC, and USA, and all whatever channels they're on. Watch that guy play, though. Connor McDavid, 100 points, and I'll get this in quickly. The first guy to reach 100 points since Doug Waite did it almost or over 20 years ago. And how about this?
For Edmonton.
Right. I'm sorry. For Edmonton. I'm sorry. I didn't make that clear. And then him and Leon Draisaitl, who emerged also as a star player like Leon Draisaitl. Well, yeah, former first-round pick, and he's also already a tremendous player. First Edmonton teammates finished in the top 10 in scoring since Jari Kurri and Jimmy Carson. You would have said must be Curry and Gretzky. No, not Curry and Gretzky. Curry and Carson. Yes, indeed, Jimmy Carson. So,
all right. Thank you.
And the third youngest to win a scoring title in history of the NHL, behind the great Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby. All right, so I think we had a few hipster moment of Zeniths. We didn't label it specifically, but there were a few in there. I hope that gave our audience a chuckle, a little smile, a little joy on whatever day they're listening. So we'll just move right into the everybody's favorite segment, yours and mine. That is, of course, known as the Hipster Beer of the Week. Take it away, Mr. Hip.
Okay, so we've talked before about the milkshake from Tired Hands and their series of beers. So Finback had a collab 2 weeks ago. Finback, again, is a brewery in Queens. They did a collaboration with RAR Brewing, which is in Cambridge, Maryland, called Gumdrop Mountain. And it was their attempt at a Neapolitan IPA, which is similar to the milkshake style, brewed with strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, and dry hopped with Citra and Mosaic. So
of course,
I had it. I had it about a week or so ago, and it's definitely not your standard, double dry hopped IPA. This definitely had almost like a cream ale type of flavoring to it, which is kind of like what the milkshake is after as well. So it's a good change of pace, even within the IPA, the IPA world. It's a nice, it's just something very different from what you normally would expect of a Northeastern IPA that's hazy and citrusy. So there you have it. Gumdrop Mountain. You can still catch it on tap in the metropolitan New York City area.
I may have to seek it out. Sounds pretty H.
Indeed, and we will return from unknown parts of metropolitan New York City next week with some hockey breakdown. We'll see where the Rangers are and some baseball developments and whatever else may arise. Yes, thank you for listening. Tip of the lip. Yes.
All right. Bye.